No,
Morning,
it's okay.
Constance, and thank you
Good
so
morning.
much for taking the time to be here today, this morning, to talk about cluttering, stuttering, fluency disorders. Is such an important topic that we don't always talk about. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
If you could please tell us a little bit more about, yourself, who you are, what you do, please.
So my name is Constance. I'm 24. I live in France, in Brittany, and I'm a student in pastry science September.
When did you realize that you had cluttering, and how did that impact your everyday life?
Yeah, I have always cluttered. I remember when I was in middle school, my teacher told me to slow down when I was reciting my poem. So cluttering has a strong impact in my daily life. It's like having a little judge in your head that judge you each time you want to speak. So this self-judgment influence my relationships with others. Sometimes I can shut up myself because I'm too afraid to speak. So people can think that I'm a closed person or disinterested, but in reality, I just don't want to be ashamed to stutter or clutter in front of them. So sometimes it's quite hard, but at the same time, cluttering gives me quality, like having a strong sense of hearing and my empathy. So cluttering is at the same time a break to be completely myself, but it's a part of myself too. So
Yeah. And many people don't really know what is the difference between like stuttering and cluttering. So what is the main difference between the two?
To differentiate the two, I would say that stuttering, it's like having blockages on letters, syllables, or words, which result of repetition or even silences. When cluttering, it's to speak too fast and not articulate enough, and it's also having having a meaningless speech because we want to say too much things at the same time, so we lost what the sense of what we are saying. So in French there is an expression is to talk before thinking, and it's how to sum up cluttering.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much, because this is not always very clear. People don't really know what is, the main difference between the two. Thank you so much. How was, like, you seem very comfortable to talk about your fluency disorder. How was your journey towards self-acceptance?
I seem, but I'm not completely comfortable with, of course. But but the more I grow, the more resilient I become, and my journey has its ups and downs. I knew some speech therapy session where I only cried because it was the only place where I felt completely understood. So I dare to confide. I also know some days where I feel completely lower than others because how can I have self-confidence where speaking is too complicated for me? Even a child can do it better than me. But besides that, each new successful challenge, even if the little one, gives me the strength to move forward. I was a saleswoman, I was a coach. So it's a fight. I think it's a fight where all the success we know, even if the little one, it's important to continue to fight. So I have a still long way to go, because today it's complicated for me to talk about it around me with detachment. So that's why doing this interview, it's a challenge for me to talk about it.
Yeah. When did you actually realize that you had, you know, cluttering rather than stuttering? Also, many like speech therapists, they don't always know.
Yeah.
So it's not very easy to always identify cluttering. So how did you find out?
Discovering the word cluttering took me a long time. Because since my childhood, I knew I have a speech impediment. My father stutters a bit, but I felt my problem was different because my father blocks on word when I speak too fast. So it was not the same problem. So I met my first speech therapist at 16, and it's a bad memory, you're right, because I remember I have to do some tests at the first appointment. And at the end, she told me, in fact, there is something who bother you fluency. It's like stuttering, but it's not completely this. And I don't know what is your problem. So I came out completely broken after this appointment because it was already hard to talk about it. But when a professional doesn't know what you have, you feel completely alone. So I decided after this to bury the problem until I have 18. Because at my 18, I was working in a team and I refused to go on a break with them because I was too afraid to speak around, in front of them and to stutter or clutter. So I pretended to have too much work to go on a break. So this lie made me very miserable. So I decided to contact a new speech therapist at this age. And I discovered that there is speech therapists specializing in stuttering and cluttering. And I met Jessica Cheveri, and she was the first who explained me the word cluttering, and it was a relief for me to understand what I had. And I could have never enough gratitude for her work.
This is so interesting because the first time I actually learned about this, you know, cluttering was last year. And I only learned because my speech therapist back then, he told me like, I don't know, maybe you have cluttering because you really like stutter. That was the first time that I actually heard about this word, you know, cluttering.
But it's really interesting, even if for myself to explain this to my friend that it's not stuttering, but it's look like they are like, but what you have, we don't understand. So it's quite difficult, even if even for myself, for my friends, but also for the professional to explain really the word cluttering. So there is a big work to do about this, I think.
I think so too. And it's really like important to really talk about it so that people know more. And so that we can also get more like support, because if people don't know what is cluttering, like stuttering, they don't know how to actually support us. And sometimes we feel like we are completely on our own because people don't really know much about it, so they don't really know how to help.
Sometimes people tell me that I speak fluency because I have a little clutter. So when I explain what I live, what is my pain, that it doesn't make sense for them because I seem to talk normally. So it's quite hard to explain.
You wrote a book related to stuttering called Le Livre d'Or du Bégaiement.
Yeah.
How did you have the idea to write this book, and what is the message that you hope people will get from it?
I found this idea of the book thanks to the Facebook group, the very private circle of people who stutter. I'm a member of this group since 2 years, and I often see posts of people who need some support. And in exchange, I receive a lot of encouragement. So I found this solidarity beautiful, but I also thought there must be so much people who need some support, but they don't dare to write a post or maybe even know the existence of this group. So why not creating a public document filled of hope for all who need it? And that's why I created the livre d'or du bégaiement. Yeah.
That's great. And what does the book talk about? Do you share, experiences? What is the key message that you really want to convey with this book?
Mm-hmm. To sum up, I just want to share a message of hope. Like, you are not alone. It's okay, and nothing is impossible for you. This book contained a lot of testimonial of people about their work, about what they about their past and their present, and just to give some example for people who need it, and just to show them that nothing is impossible and they are not alone. Yes.
And while you were, writing the book, what were the biggest obstacles that you had, and what were the positive discoveries?
Yeah. The livre d'or du bégaiement is my first project that I carry out from the start to finish. So the biggest obstacle was the timing. We had planned a release for the end of October, but it was only published in December. So I had a bad timing about the creation of the book. But for the positive things, I would say all the positive feedback I received. I was supported by the French association, Association Parole Bégaiement. All the feedback I received by the member of the group. I even met a member of the group in Paris to talk about it. And of course, all the testimonial I received, because thinking that people took time to write a positive message for other people that they will never know touched me a lot. So that's very the positive things.
Yeah, that's great. I hope someday I can actually read. I mean, my French, I'm still getting better on that. So hopefully at some point I will be able to read the book. There are a lot of misconceptions about fluency disorders. What misconceptions do you consider more pertinent, and how do you think we can better raise, awareness about stuttering?
The first misconception to me is the image of the stutterer. We can think the stutterer is an isolated person, shy, poorly dressed, and who stutter very loudly. But in reality, there is as much stuttering as people. And the stutterer can be a man or woman, young or old, famous or unknown, shy or very chatty, with a very strong or even inaudible stutter. So it's for me the first misconception, which is very important. And for the second, I would say that the level of the stutter, of stuttering, there is some people who can have a very strong stutter, but completely accept it, when other people with mild or an inaudible stutter can be a great pain for them. I'm the example because I have a mild clutter, but it was a great pain, and it's still a fight for me. But when I explain my problem to my friend or the people around me, it doesn't make sense for them, because how we talked before, they don't even hear my problem, or just a little, so they can understand all the pain is it for me to be how can I say it, for me, of not be completely free to say what I want to say. And to increase the sensitivity, I would say we need to talk. We need to talk about it around us, because we can accuse people of ignorance if there is no dialogue about cluttering, stuttering. So I don't know, why not going into a class of clutterer speech therapists to explain cluttering and the difference between the two. And there is many things to do about it, but I would say the best advice, it was to talk about this.
I really hope that we can feel more free to just talk about like stuttering, cluttering without feeling ashamed or embarrassed or judged, because I think this is a very like important topic, and at schools you don't really hear much about it. You know, teachers are usually unaware of it, so it's like important, I think, to raise awareness.
And also, you're right, it's we need to live with it each second of our life. And I know that my clutter increases my emotion. So when you talk about don't show my real personality, sometimes I know I refuse to leave my emotion, like anger, sadness, or happiness, because I know that the risk of clutter increase with my emotion. So sometimes I keep my poker face, you know, to just to be to keep my to keep, yes, the risk of clutter down. So I refuse sometimes to be completely myself. So
what advice would you give to those who are like struggling with self-acceptance and low confidence because of like stuttering or cluttering?
I would say take your time. Really take your time. Accept where you are today. Look at you have been already through. Maybe the road may be still long, but you need to go at your own pace. The important is not the speed, it's to move forward. And so really take your time. Accept that you're not at the top yet. You run away from situation. You keep quiet when you shouldn't. But we are doing our best every day. So let's be gentle with ourselves.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much, Constance. Thank you for your time, for being so open to talk about it. Even though it's not easy, it's a long journey towards self-acceptance and disclosing, cluttering, you know, like stuttering. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation. And I think it's important to accept all the challenge we can try. So it's a pleasure. Thank you.